Your visa's been denied. These are the words that everybody dreads when trying to go abroad. And visa refusal stories are the ones that break my heart for your guys' hard work in trying to go study and work abroad. But we have a former visa officer who's going to break down visa refusals and things to do next time to improve and be better off for your next visa interview. Check it out. Hey friends, welcome to Chine Coaching. I'm Rob, and we love helping people be successful in their cross-cultural journeys, especially if you're going to study abroad or work abroad coming to America. And with all your hard preparation, so much comes down to that visa interview, just a couple-minute conversation that determines your future. We've got Ben today from Argo Visa, who's going to break down visa refusals and denials, help you guys understand and be better prepared. So Ben, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ben Ardebrun. Like Rob said, I'm a former visa officer. I worked for the US government in our embassies and consulates around the world for 6 years. I was posted in China and in Latin America, in Colombia. I worked in the non-immigrant visa section where you get your B, your F, your H-1B visas. And I also worked in the immigrant visa section. So, if you're the spouse, child, or parent of an American citizen, you also get your visa there. I also worked in the fraud unit, which is where we do the investigations into cases that might not be immediately approvable, right? Investigations into people's background, their resume, their job, whatever it may be. So hopefully today we can help a lot of you who may have been refused, find out what the next steps will be. And also if some of you haven't gone to your interview yet, we'll help you not get refused that first time.
Fantastic, Ben. Thanks so much for hanging out and sharing your experience on Chine Coaching today. And as I've talked with Ben, you guys are going to learn so much great stuff. So be sure to watch the whole video through the end. But this very first question, Ben, is what are the different types of visa refusals that people can face?
It's a good question. There are a couple different types. There's one type which is very specific. This is the type that's related to being convicted of a crime, having overstayed your visa previously in the US, having committed fraud, etc. Those are very specific, and those ones will require very specific solutions. But the kind of refusal that 95% or more of visa applicants who get refused encounter is what we call 214B, right? Now, that's just some technical lingo to describe the section of the law that allows them to refuse your visa. And it says that every visa applicant is presumed to have immigrant intent unless they can convince the visa officer that they don't. So paradoxically, this is very opposed to the rest of the US legal system. Visa applicants are considered guilty until they can prove themselves innocent. So the visa officers can always just say, I'm not convinced of this applicant's bona fides, their credentials, their intent, and so I'm going to refuse them 214B. So you'll hear that term a lot out there. Another type of refusal that's like a pseudo refusal is 221G. That's not really a refusal yet. That just means pending. So it means not issued yet. So I know when you go into the SEAC after your interview, you may see refused 221G. Rest assured, that just means that your case is still pending. They're still doing some work on it. They just haven't issued it yet, but it's not a refusal outright per se.
Yeah, the most common one I hear from my friends is the 214B. Get a lot of questions about that. And so it's really good to get some more details about that as well. And with these refusals, I know that you guys at Argo have some really cool opportunities to help people who've been refused or preparing for interviews. What does Argo do exactly?
So Argo, we're the first and only company in the world that's made up completely of ex-visa officers like me who worked in the embassies and consulates doing visas for years. And we now help clients on the outside. We did it on the inside. I adjudicated personally 60,000 plus visas during my career. Mandy,
Wow.
who many of you all will have seen in some of Rob's other videos, has done over 100,000 in her career. All of us have done at least a few tens of thousands of these interviews. We've got that experience. We know the regulations and the law and the Foreign Affairs Manual, which is the basis for which they do their entire job. But more importantly, we know the visa officer's mindset. We know how to make their job easy, what information to put in front of them that lets them know, oh, I can issue this visa. I don't need to be concerned about this applicant's credentials. So, if someone comes to us and they've been refused before, we talk to them, we ask what happened in that first interview. We ask everything about their application. right? Their details, their plan of study, the school they're going to, their family's finances, et cetera. And we, with about 90% or more certainty, we know exactly what it was that was going through that visa officer's mind that caused them to refuse the visa. What we can do then from there is prepare you to go into your next visa interview with a completely new strategy to try to catch the visa officer's attention from the very beginning and get them to question that previous refusal and get them along the road to changing their decision and issuing your visa. A lot of people, I see this online in a lot of forums, people say, just keep applying one time after another and just hope for a different result. That's not only ineffective, because if you go in with the same plan, you're going to get the same result. It's not only ineffective, it's actually counterproductive, because if you've been refused once, when you go in for your next interview, that visa officer is going to say, oh, they were refused once. That's going to make them lean towards refusal already. That's why you need a new plan. If you come in and they see, oh, they've been refused twice, that's double the negative impression. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. That's really a lot of weight on the side of refusal when you go in that many times. So it's in everyone's best interest to, well, let me plug this first, get some help before your first interview, right? It's best to go in with a clean slate. But if you've already been refused once, don't just go in again, trying the same strategy, hoping for a different result. Get some help, get a new strategy, get a new plan, so you really can maximize your chances. It's really important to do it as soon as possible.
Definitely. Yeah, I've heard some great feedback from people who've gotten coaching from Argo to really prepare or figure out what happened in their refusals. So we've got links in the video description and comments where you guys can connect and book one of those coaching calls so you guys can be confident, have the right strategy, and ace your guys' visa interview. But Ben, what are some of the most common reasons that people get denied in their visa interviews?
The technical reasons that they're going to think about is someone doesn't really have the funding for their studies. We'll talk about F visas mostly because most of the visa interviews that are happening right now are for students. So if they don't think that you can actually afford your course of study, that's the reason that they're going to refuse you. If they don't think that you've demonstrated the academic credentials and the academic stick-to-itiveness to actually follow through on your program, they might refuse you. What it comes down to, though, the bar is, do they think you're going to do what you say you're going to do and then go back home, right? So is this person going to go and study like they say they will and then return to their own country, or will they go to the US, maybe study for a little while, or maybe not even begin their studies, and then pick up a job there and stay there illegally? These are people who have minimal training in the local culture, economy, language of the country where they're doing these visa interviews. So they don't know as much as you might about how you can see, oh, well, this person obviously is a legitimate student, or oh, this person obviously is working class and they're not as legitimate of a student because they they can't show that they've got all the student credentials. Now, the visa officer doesn't know this. So when you walk up to the window, they're trying to, as fast as possible, because those of you that have had an interview know that it happens within 1 or 2 minutes.
It's
as
so
fast
quick.
as possible, so quick. They're trying to put you in one of 2 boxes. Yes, I can issue this visa, or no, I'm going to refuse this visa, right? They want their job to be easy. They want to make that decision quickly. So they want the information that's going to make that decision easy for them. They want you to give it to them. They want it to be in your DS-160. They want it to be readily apparent. They don't want to have no clue what to do with a visa applicant, right? So they're looking for that. If you go to your visa interview and you filled out your DS-160 accurately, and you walk up and you stand there very politely and you wait for their question, and they say, what's your purpose of travel to the US? And you say, study. You've done nothing to influence their thinking. You already handed them an I-20. They already opened your application. They know that you're applying for an F visa. When they ask you that question, that's your chance to sway their opinion, right? They're thinking, is this person I issue, or is this a person I refuse? If you just say student, study, right? Accounting, answering whatever question they've asked, you've lost that opportunity, right? So you have to bring your persona, your character to life in front of them and let them know what kind of student you are, what kind of family you come from, what kind of plans you have. Even if they don't ask you the right questions, you need to know what's the right information you need to get in front of them.
So they kind of need to have that story prepared of more than just here's the fact, but here's who I am, what I'm about, what I plan to do, and then what my goals are because of that.
Right. That's exactly right. We like to say when we when I talk with all of our consultants and we talk about how we can give even better consultations, we kind of have a rubric where we want to identify each of our clients' highlights and hurdles. What are the things that are going to help them get their visa, and what are the things that are going to prevent them from it, or maybe make it harder for them to get the visa. Maybe you've got a student who has a great academic resume, who has studied really hard, gotten great test scores, gotten into the great state school, but their family doesn't have great finances, right? So what are their highlights? They're a dedicated student. They've been studying really hard. They've gotten into a good school, but the hurdle is that their family doesn't have a lot of resources, so they might not be able to pay for it. They might be taking out loans, something like that, right? Another student might be going to a lesser known school in the US, might not have gotten such a great score on the TOEFL, but their family is very solidly middle class or upper middle class and has some assets and savings and investments. And so that student's highlight is going to be their financial situation, right? So that's what we do. We try to work with our clients to figure out what are going to be those highlights, and we teach them how to bring those to the forefront. And then when we have those hurdles, we teach them, okay, this is how you're going to need to address those hurdles when the visa officer asks you about them.
I love it. That's a great idea, great way to frame it. And in the really bad situation that someone is refused, what next steps would you recommend someone who's been denied a visa to prepare for their next interview?
So I know that there's a lot of people online talking about, oh, you need to have a gap between your first interview and your second interview. Many times this is true. However, if you're applying to go to University X, University of Iowa, in the spring, starting in January, and you have your interview and you've been refused. Well, if you go in 1 week from now or 1 month from now, and you're applying for the same program, same start date, same everything, nothing's really changed at all. You don't need to leave a gap. You can go in immediately to another interview with a new plan, right? With a new plan for how you're going to approach that interview. If you just walk in a second time and just stand there and say, study, when they ask you what your purpose is, they're going to think, okay, well, I'm just going to do the same thing the previous officer did, right? So if you've been refused, you definitely, need to talk to an expert, right? We are, it's my opinion that we're the top experts in the world in this, because we are the only company that actually are the people that did the visa approving and refusing, and now we're on the outside. But talk to an expert, find out what may have been your problem, get a new plan, get a new strategy, practice it, and go in again. Now, some people may need to leave a gap, right? Some people get refused for a reason that's not going to allow them to get their visa in the near term at all, right? Maybe they were removed at the border. There are some students that unfortunately have been caught up in these OPT companies that weren't legitimate, but they were associated with them for a certain amount of time, and then they've gotten their visa revoked. We've helped a lot of students in that situation too.
I want to add to that, Ben, real quick. Me and Mandy have made a video about these OPT job scams. We'll have the link for you guys. This is a big deal. A lot of people don't know about, that makes a huge mess. And so be sure to check out the video with me and Mandy about the OPT job scams. But just wanted to throw that out there. Go ahead and keep going.
check out that video, but that's just an example of another type of refusal where we're going to have different advice for you because it's a completely different situation, right? You kind of need to diagnose what the problem is and then find out what the steps forward are.
So our chai question for this video is, have you ever been denied a visa before? Go ahead and tell us in the comments if you've been refused. What did they say? What kind of refusal or denial did you get? Tell us in the comments. Hopefully we can learn from each other and support each other in this community, in this journey. So Ben, when people are preparing for their next visa interview after denial, do they need to change anything?
That's a good question. And I know why it's such a prominent question on students' minds is because you read online and a lot of times you go in for your second visa interview. The officer's first question is, what's changed since your previous visa interview? What's different now, right? This is not something that's in the law and the regulations. You won't find this when you search through the Immigration and Nationalities Act. You won't find it in the Foreign Affairs Manual, but it is the way that visa officers are trained. They're told by their managers, if nothing has changed since the previous refusal, that means you should rely on the previous officer's decision and refuse again. It's not required, right? But this is how the managers try to get the officers to have something they can rely on to go faster, right? To speed through the cases, right? To give them a crutch to rely on. Now, sometimes things don't change. You may have been admitted into a PhD program and you've got full funding. You don't want, there's nothing to change, right? Now, what may have changed though is that you're going to get your information to the visa officer so that they can actually consider it. So when they ask that question, what's changed since your last visa interview? If something has changed, indeed, especially if it's something that is beneficial to you, that's what you need to say right then. But sometimes something hasn't changed. So the answer is not nothing. That's an answer that puts you on your back foot. That makes them lean already towards refusal. The answer should be anything that's going to bolster your case, right? So it could be in the example that I just gave. Well, I don't think that I presented my funding for my PhD program the last time, and the officer didn't know it. Today, I've brought all the letters that show that I've got full funding for my PhD program. This is the amount that I'm getting per semester, and it shows that it's going for the full 4 years of the program. Something like this. Now, you may have had that the last time, but they didn't ask for it, so you didn't get to present it. So it's just presenting that piece of information, that number one piece of information that supports your application, getting that out to the officer as soon as you can.
I think that's incredible. You need to have a new strategy, a new plan, a new kind of framework of communication. Otherwise, you're going to get the same exact results. And hopefully we can see refusals turns into approvals, which is, the goal. And I love getting those messages and say, Rob, my visa has been approved. That makes me so happy. And I know at Argo Visa, you can connect with a coach just like Ben to have one-on-one coaching calls to make your strategy, figure out what problems or hurdles you might have, frame your story, or figure out why you might have been refused and how to pivot and be at a better place. So be sure to check them out. I highly recommend them. We've got their links in the video description in the comments as well. We want to see you guys be successful in your journeys and in your visa interviews. Ben, thanks so much. This was super helpful. I learned a lot. I know this is going to be so much value for our community.
Thanks so much, Rob. It's really good to talk to students that are pursuing their dreams of coming to the U.S. to study. For anyone out there, we speak 14 different languages. We've worked in 35 different countries, and we've done every type of visa case imaginable. In case you're wondering if we can actually help you with your case, the answer is we can.
Definitely, I agree with that. And we've made a few other videos as well with Argo Visa and Mandy, so be sure to check those out. We'll have links for those to keep learning. And thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Chine Coaching newsletter, connect with us on social media. You can also follow Argo on social media as well. They do some great live events and are growing their social media presence. And we'll see you guys next time at Chine Coaching. Cheers.
Cheers.